All right. So a lot of you may have already known about this, but we're going to talk about it right now. Last night, after I ate dinner, I got a notification on my phone that Trump signs an order freezing visas for foreign workers through the end of the year. He signed an executive order Monday, freezes new visas for foreign workers. He's claiming because of coronavirus. He's claiming because he's trying to preserve jobs. We have high unemployment in the United States. Which visas are affected? H-1B. Those are your professional working visas. H-2B. Those are your seasonal workers who are coming to work in hotels and restaurants. And H-4s, which are your spouses of the people working as professionals or specialty workers. Ls, those are your intra-company transferees. Somebody who works for General Motors in Europe wants to be transferred to General Motors in America. Sorry, you can't. He has suspended all of those programs, the H-1B program, the H-2B program, the H-4 program, and the L-1A and the L-1B program through December 31st. He has also extended the ban on issuing immigrant visas to employment-based petitions and family members on the waiting list, also through December 31st. The only people who can walk into an embassy and get a green card right now are those who are married to U.S. citizens, those who are children under 21 of a U.S. citizen, those who are parents of U.S. citizens. If you have an H-1B visa currently, you can still come to the United States. If you have an H-2B visa currently, you can come to the United States. If you have an H-4, you can come. If you have an L, you can come. He also stopped the J-1 program. But if you already have the visa in your passport, you can come. If you have some other type of visa, for example, a tourist visa, you have a B-1, B-2 visa, you can still come to the United States, and then you can change your status to an H-1B, or you can change your status in the United States to an L. What he has prevented people from doing, is he's prevented people from getting a new visa in their passport. You could always come to the United States with any visa that you have in your passport, and then after you come here, change to a different status, including H-1Bs, H-2Bs, H-4s, or Ls. Now, healthcare workers and researchers combating coronavirus, university professors, people working in food processing, people working in agriculture, and people working in the seafood industries are exempt. This will all be through December 31st. So whatever you can do, if you can make it into the United States, you can still do. But he has stopped processing all of these visas in other countries. He's also stopped processing employment-based petitions for green cards in other countries. He's also stopped family-based petitions, which kind of to me, when you think about it, is how hypocritical he can be. Because when he came and became president of the United States, he said to the American people, I'm not against immigration. I'm for immigration. What I am against is people coming to the United States and violating their visas and overstaying their time and then, bucking the system and getting a green card. What we really want is people to stay in their home countries and follow the law. And if you follow the law, we have no problem with you. So what did he do 3 years into his presidency? Those people who are staying in other countries, who are following the law, who said, I'm going to stay in my home country, I'm going to follow the law, and I'm going to wait my turn to be able to come to America on a waiting list, you're all effed, at least till the end of the year. But if you came to the United States and you overstayed your time and you marry an American citizen and you violated the law, hey, welcome. You're welcome. So how hypocritical. You know what this ultimately does is it teaches people not to follow the law. Because if you follow the law, you get screwed. It's teaching people, come get to the United States no matter however the hell you can get here, and then figure it out when you're here. That's what it's teaching people. It's not teaching people to stay home and wait for their green cards and wait for their visas. It's teaching people to come to America. So it's completely hypocritical and counterintuitive to what he ultimately wants, which is people not to overstay their time. So what's going to happen with all of this? Well, ultimately, people will ultimately be able to come to America on work visas. People are ultimately going to be able to come to America with green cards. You are ultimately going to be able to have your children come. You are ultimately going to have your spouse come to the United States on an F2A. This is coronavirus related. This is politically motivated for his reelection in November. And we'll see what happens. Certainly if Biden wins, this will all be scrapped. And I think there is a lot of American companies that are against this. For example, Microsoft President Brad Smith said on Twitter, "Now is not the time to cut our nation off from the world's talent or create uncertainty and anxiety. Immigrants play a vital role at our company and support our country's critical infrastructure. They are contributing to this country at a time when we need them most." Now, American advocacy groups began pushing back on the order quickly after news of its contents was released. Shavari Dalal Delaney, director of the government relations at the American Immigration Lawyers Association, she said, "We are extremely concerned that such a broad prohibition on legal immigration, whether an individual is coming permanently or temporarily, will negatively impact our country's ability to recover from a global health and economic crisis." I am an immigration lawyer. I am not a constitutional scholar. I am also not a scholar on presidential power. But I am pretty dangerous. I know enough to have a conversation. And what I don't understand is where our Congress is. Where are our senators? Where are our members of House of Representatives? This Congress, for the last 3 years, has given ultimate power to Donald Trump. Since when can President Trump or any president make laws? They can't. Not under our Constitution. Presidents can make regulations to enforce a particular law, to make a regulation to say, this is the procedure we're going to follow as per this law. For example, if you marry an American citizen, the law says in the Immigration Nationality Act, if you're married to an American citizen, you're an immediate relative, you can adjust your status. Well, how do you do this? What is the process? That is what the president is required to do in a regulation. He enforces the law. He makes the rules on how the law is to be enforced. But he's not allowed to change laws. He's not allowed to ignore laws, which is basically what he's doing. Where is the Congress in all of this? They passed a law that says H-1B visas, 60,000 people a year, unlimited number of L-1 visas. They passed a law that said if you are a child over the age of 21, a son and daughter of a person over the age of 21, you can come to America with a green card and F2B. You wait on the waiting list, you come. Where's Congress in all of this? Why are they not saying anything? Why did they give all this power to Trump? Since when did he become king? We'll see what happens. I mean, I for one, I'm not qualified to sue. Maybe I should. Maybe I am qualified to sue Trump. I got to think about this. But somebody's going to sue him who knows the Constitution very, very well. I can't believe that this will be allowed to at least not go through the courts and see what happens. The Trump administration also said they plan to soon announce. By the way, before I even go to the next Trump disaster, that should not prevent anybody from filing for their family member. That should not prevent anybody from processing their immigration cases for their family members in another country, because this is a 6-month delay on your immigration case. That's what this is. This is not a permanent, there is no more H-1Bs. This is not a permanent, I can't file for my family member anymore. This is basically Trump saying 6-month delay. And we'll see what happens with the election, where coronavirus is, what the courts have to say about this. We have not seen the end of this, one way or the other. But that doesn't mean you should not be filing or doing things. It's not like you can't ever do it. Trump says for the next 6 months. That's what his proclamation says. I think the courts are going to say, he can't even say for the next week, but we got to wait for the courts to say something. So we'll see what happens. And by the way, also, if you're in the United States, All of this doesn't apply to you. It's only for people outside of the United States. To soon announce a policy that will deny work permits for asylum seekers who came into the United States without inspection. So in order to get a work permit now, after you file for asylum, you can only get a work permit if you came to the United States on a visa, or you came to the airport or a border crossing and applied for asylum right there at the border. But if you ran across the border and then months later decide to apply for asylum, no work permit for you. That's what the new rule is going to be for asylum. Now, meanwhile, President Trump, well, he's traveling to Arizona today for a rally and to visit the border wall. Arizona is right now the worst in the nation for the entire coronavirus outbreak. If we had to pick the state that is the petri dish, Arizona right now is the petri dish of the United States of America as it pertains to coronavirus. The city of Phoenix just passed a law requiring face masks to be worn in public to curb the spread of this virus. But meanwhile, at Trump's rally at the Dream Church, which is in Phoenix, you don't got to wear a face mask there. It's the one time you don't got to do it. You got to wear it everywhere else. Now, Trump is refusing. We've talked about this on Bradshaw Live umpteen times. Trump is refusing to wear a face mask in public. He is making this a social calling of his. He is trying to make a war between people who reject face masks. And he's now having people within the Republican Party claim that wearing face masks is a liberal plot to impose political correctness and to make Trump look bad. Now, last week, Trump told the Wall Street Journal that he believes that Americans are wearing masks not because it saves lives, but because they don't like Donald Trump. Well, let me tell you, Donald, this is not a liberal plot. This is a science plot. This is science. I don't understand why in America today there has to be a debate about science. Science is science. It is undebatable. In May, a study out of Oregon Health and Science University, funded by the World Health Organization, confirmed that even stock surgical masks make significant reductions in the number of doctors and nurses infected by coronavirus. There is a reason why when you go into a hospital, every doctor and nurse is wearing a mask. Okay, because if masks did not prevent people from spreading coronavirus, every doctor would be walking in the operating room not wearing anything. But all these doctors and nurses, they're protesting Trump. Meanwhile, Roger Chu, the director of the Oregon Health School of Medicine, said if you look at individual healthcare workers using masks versus not wearing masks, the risk of being infected goes from 50% to 80%. So you have an 80% chance of being infected as a healthcare worker if you do not wear a mask, but only a 50% chance if you do. That is a fact. Now, as he jetted off to Arizona today, Trump doubled down on this suggestion that the United States also should do less coronavirus testing. He says if we test less, then there'll be less numbers of cases reported. Things won't look so bad here in the United States. He told the crowd at a Tulsa rally on Saturday that he asked officials to slow the testing down for coronavirus because he doesn't want America to look bad.
When you do testing to that extent, you're going to find more people. You're going to find more cases. So I said to my people, slow the testing down, please.
Now, the assistant to Trump, Peter Navarro, and the White House press secretary, Kayleigh McEnany, said Trump's statement after the Tulsa rally was a joke. He was only kidding. But Trump said, no, he's not kidding. That he's deadly serious. He says, I don't kid. He said, adding that fewer tests would result in fewer reported cases and make the pandemic look not as bad. It's like saying, you know what? I just had sex with this man last night. I'm not going to get a pregnancy test. And if I don't get a pregnancy test, I'm not pregnant. Who knows if I am or not? But if I don't get a pregnancy test, I'm not pregnant. That's what he's basically saying. Meanwhile, Anthony Fauci told the Wall Street Journal that increased testing does lead to more cases reported. It does. It's true. But he said higher percentages of positive test results in many cases cannot be explained by increased testing, meaning that the percentage of people who are testing positive is increasing. It has nothing to do with the volume of people being tested. It is the percentage of people. So if 1% of the people getting tested 3 weeks ago have coronavirus, and now it's 4% of people have coronavirus, you can test 50 people, you can test 50,000 people. Coronavirus is spreading. Now, Arizona is a key swing state in the presidential election and a key Senate battleground as well. Trump won the state by a narrow 3-point margin in 2016. He cannot afford to lose it. But you know what? If Arizona becomes the coronavirus petri dish of the United States of America, he may lose it. And then he'll really lose it. Now, according to statistics from the Johns Hopkins University, there are now over 9.1 million coronavirus cases worldwide. Over 473,000 people have died. In the United States, almost 2.4 million people have been diagnosed with coronavirus. Last Sunday, the World Health Organization reported the largest single-day increase in coronavirus cases by its count at more than 183,000 new cases. Meanwhile, the United States on Saturday reported more than 33,000 new confirmed cases of the coronavirus, the highest total since May 1st. And this is a sign that the outbreak is not slowing down. We're just sticking our head in the sand. Anthony Fauci, he told the Daily Beast, he says, I don't like to talk about a second wave right now. That's what everyone's saying is maybe this is a second wave. Because he says, we haven't even gotten out of the first wave yet. Now, officials in states across the South are testing more and more people. And what they're learning is that the people who are testing positive as the largest percentage of people, they are young people. Officials in states across the South, they're warning that more young people are testing positive for coronavirus than at any time since we started testing. And while some officials have pointed to more widespread testing being done, others say the new cases stem from Americans just not social distancing, not wearing face masks. Also today, a private funeral service for Rayshard Brooks was held at a historic Atlanta church where the Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. once preached. Brooks, he was 27 years old. He died on June 12th in an officer-involved shooting in a Wendy's parking lot in Atlanta. Video shows Brooks resisted being handcuffed, grabbed, and fired an officer's taser and started to run. One officer shot him in the back. Now, scores of mourners, some dressed all in white, others wearing Black Lives Matter shirts, remembered Rayshard Brooks, and they called for change. King's daughter, the Reverend Bernice King, said, "We cannot stop our demonstrations until our voices are heard and our demands for police reform are met. The officers should have gone home that night without blood on their hands. This is the great tragedy on our nation that must cease." And she is 100% right. Now, one day after a noose was found in NASCAR racer Bubba Wallace's garage stall, fans wearing Black Lives Matter and I Can't Breathe t-shirts turned out to hear Wallace say, "The sport is changing," after an emotional race Monday at Talladega Superspeedway in Lincoln, Alabama. Now, for those who don't follow NASCAR, I'm not a NASCAR fan, but what I have learned is that Wallace is the only Black full-time driver on the entire circuit. And he was joined by all 39 other drivers and their crews in a march down pit road as they pushed his number 43 to the front of the line in the moments before the race. When the group reached the front yesterday, Wallace climbed out of his car and he started to cry. He went to the fence and through the wiring, slapped hands with a group of fans as they cheered. He apologized for not wearing a mask, but said he didn't put it on because I wanted to show whoever it was, you are not taking away my smile. Now, said Wallace, this sport is changing. The pre-race deal was probably one of the hardest things I've ever had to witness in my life. From all the supporters, from the drivers to the crew members, everybody here, the badass fan base, thank you guys for coming out. This is truly incredible.